Welcome back. Well, Laolu Akande is here with us. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning.
Well, last time we spoke about Ondo and all of that, but now you've seen the way it's gone. The deputy governor is now the acting governor. So perhaps that puts paid probably to all of this, or do we expect some more dynamics when the primaries and things like that come up?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think you're right that the governor, actually did what many people believe is the right thing, and which he has done, actually 4 times. I think this is the 5th time this year that is, and transferring power to the deputy governor while he's away. So that is commendable, and I think it has sort of settled the situation in Ondo State. Now you have the Mr. Aiyedatiwa fully in charge as the acting governor, and we hope that we, at least calm things down so that there can be real impact of governance for the people. As to what might happen ahead of the primaries, which is, I think, is in April, that might actually be one of the undercurrents that was driving the crisis, that we have seen in Ondo State. But hopefully, I think, with the intervention of the president and the governor doing what is right, I think a lot depends on the acting governor now to also just go ahead and just get the job done, for the people to keep the focus on governance.
He's given a speech. I don't know if you were able to see details of his speech where he talked about unity being his focus, and what has happened so far has been unnecessary. He says it's a time that calls for sober reflection, etc. I don't know how you think that speech has calmed down the people of Ondo to, really be sober about the events of the past few weeks or even months leading up to his taking over as acting governor.
Yeah, actually, and that's right, because and that's the kind of rhetoric that should be coming from the acting governor of Ondo State to try and rally everybody together. A lot of time has been wasted, all the drama about signatures and stuff like that. We don't know what is happening. It is now time for the acting governor to take charge and ensure that there is governance. And that speech, I also read it, is quite a good start. Put everybody together, focus on governance, let us focus less on politics if we get that opportunity.
I really hope that can happen. But it really raises concerns for the average Nigerian about the situation, about the section of the Constitution that talks about transmission of power should a leader be incapacitated. The state cabinet is supposed to have, just as the Federal Executive Council should have powers to determine whether or not a governor or the president is incapable of carrying out his or her duties. People will say, well, it will seem that we got to that situation in Ondo, but that part could never even be carried out. We found a situation where governor had to hurriedly come back when that was even contemplated and was governing from Ibadan. I don't know, do you think we need to give a second look to really see what solutions can work under the circumstances that we currently are? Looking at the 2 situations so far that we've seen, where this sort of thing, not even, there are more than 2, because we saw that in 2009 or 2010, I think was when President Aiyedatiwa was ill. We saw what happened in Taraba as well, when the governor there, soon trying to remember his name now, he had an accident, his plane crashed.
Yeah.
And then we've also seen what happened. Suntai, thank you. And then we'll also see what's happening right now in Ondo State. These 3 situations have always been shown some controversy. This is in spite of amendments that we've made. Should we be taking another look at our laws?
Well, I mean, it's not a bad idea to see what else can be done. Although it's important to point out that Ondo State is slightly different, from what happened in Taraba and the other place, because
I think even you'll be at some point.
Yeah, because to be fair to Governor Akeredolu, he actually handed over power 4 times. I think it's important to make a note of that. And he has done it again. This time. So it's not exactly the same. So if people are willing to transfer power, then we might not need.
But look at all of it. You say he's done it again, but look at all of the needless crisis that had happened before this last transfer of power.
Yeah.
Some people will say, if he's done it before, why was it so difficult for him to admit that, look, I'm not so well, and do it again?
Well, and he did. But to your point, there might be need to see what else can be done. So, for instance, the Constitution says now that if there's going to be a declaration of incapacity, it has to start from the executive. And I think we had raised the question here that, is it possible for people who, whether it's the president or the governor, are put in place to be able to make that move? Would they feel confident? So maybe there should be a way to see how that declaration of incapacity can be done, outside of the executive. Because if I appointed you as a commissioner or a president as a minister, will you be, is that council the right place? Will the members be quite bold and willing to say
they'll have a sense of loyalty?
Yes. So maybe that responsibility should be shifted possibly to the assembly itself, or find a way to include both the executive and the assembly, just to create chances of that happening.
Can the assembly be immune or insulated from all of this? We've seen what's going on with the assembly in Rivers and what can happen in different parts of this country. So what hope can we have with any assembly?
Very, very good point. And I think one of the things that has to happen is that we have to find a way to make those assemblies independent. Even the National Assembly, National Assembly used to be a little bit more independent, but some of the things that we've seen, is almost getting close to what happened in the state. In a lot of the states, the governors have pocketed the assembly, which is very terrible. It's so sad, because the parliament, whether at the state or the federal level, is supposed to be where the people, the people's voice is actually sounding as high as possible. But if they end up in the pockets of the executive, which is what we have in many places, then that responsibility, that objective is not achievable. So it's important to see what else can be done to make the assemblies truly independent.
And speaking about that, have you been able to isolate, or at least the voices of the people in Rivers concerning them ensuring that the assembly is independent of the executive? Because right now, it appears as though that line is blurred.
Yeah. And, what is happening in Rivers is quite a bit of a lot of drama, and nobody really knows how it's going to end. So now there are two assemblies, so there's one that has 4 members,
Can it really be called an assembly?
Well, the speaker seems to have gotten an expertise holder to say that, yes, he is the legitimate speaker.
But the other group are arguing that, no, the court did not say he is the speaker, that the court recognized that group. But he is saying, no, I am the speaker. Yeah. And the other group is saying, no, I am the speaker. Sure, if you claim to be the speaker, the other group, show us your proceedings. Did the people see how you were elected as speaker? So all sorts of things out there.
All sorts of things. It's I think to your point, I think this is an opportunity for us to take a look as we are planning the next round of constitutional amendment, to see what can be done to make I guess maybe if they put the funding, the allocation for the assemblies as a first line charge that goes directly to the assembly, and see what else can be done to disconnect that control, quote unquote, that the governor have on the assembly. It's a very important thing that we have to do for our democracy to evolve. Very, very, very important question, because the assembly has just become places where the governor decides what he wants to do, when he wants to do it, and how he wants to do it, and it's completely unacceptable.
And one thing we've seen, and probably that the people should also focus and ask more questions, is not just in Rivers now, local governments. We've seen how governors can wake up tomorrow and dissolve local government, because they'll tell you, well, the state gives us powers, we regulate the functions and make laws for local government, so they can wake up, dissolve them, even though I think the Supreme Court has ruled now that you can't dissolve an validly elected local government.
Yeah.
But shouldn't they, or shouldn't we have, or should we have some focus on that provision, making, number one, local governments free from the dictates of the governors, to making the assemblies completely independent and truly so financially, even the judiciary in those states, and add to that now, perhaps probably in Rivers, do you think that the budget will even be properly implemented with all of this going on?
Yeah, Yeah, so you packed quite a lot of questions in that chamber. But I think the most important thing that I want to point out from what you said is that there is actually a crisis of governance going on in the states, especially since 1999. And with due regard to the governors, and some of them have done outstanding job. There's no doubt about that. But by and large, and for the large part, governors have been much more like monarchs. The way they behave, and because all of us focus on what happens in Abuja, a lot of the times some of the governors get away with murder. In the way they control the assembly, in the way they control the local government. Look at what President Buhari tried to do during his tenure. I'm sitting where I serve. Made quite a lot of moves to free the local governments from the shackles, quote unquote, of the governors. But there was a strong resistance. There was strong resistance from the governor. So much so that he himself had to just wonder what's going on. Strong resistance from them, even though in a federal system, the states are supposed to have a bit of oversight on their local governments because it's supposed to be under, the local governments are, technically in the federal system under the state government. But to the extent that you don't see anything happening at the local governments, there are no allocations in many parts of the country. When you even go to local government offices, the place is empty. I think to that extent, the problem has really gotten worse, and we need to start to think about what else can we do to fix, the stranglehold that some of the governors have, both on the assemblies and the local governments.
And one thing we've also seen is when some of these governors are in office and they carry out all of these things to weaken the institutions, and then when they're out of office, you hear comments like, "Oh, Nigerians don't ask enough questions of their leaders. People do things and we don't ask. We need to ask and ask and ask." And then you look and say, wait a minute, but these same people, when you were in office, what did you do to strengthen the voices of the citizenry so that they can hold people accountable? So it suits them when they're out of office, but when they're in office, they don't want any questions, not even from the media. They want to shut all of them down.
Which is why, like we've talked about, we have to find ways and means to strengthen the voice of the Nigerian people.
And I think the National Assembly might be incentivized to do that now, because only recently, too, the Chief of Staff to the President, who was a former speaker, I think was delivering a speech to lawmakers, and he said that the reason why lawmakers are burdened is because local governments are not functional. That's why people expect their representatives to do so much for them.
I remember that.
So I don't know whether that will be sufficient incentive for lawmakers to see what can be done to reverse that trend. Because if they are doing what local government chairmen are supposed to do, maybe they will be looking at how the laws can empower and make the local governments a little more independent. Do you see a role for them?
Yeah. So the fact that you have federal lawmakers trying to fill in the gap for the absence of governance in the local government just shows you the overall disempowerment, complete dislocation of the local government. And I think the solution, even though you find some merit for constituency projects, if it is done properly, but the solution is actually to fix the local government, because the legislators are just there to make laws, really. But the local government is supposed to be an executive arm of government, so we need to fix this problem with local government.
It's just interesting because these same state assemblies are the ones that rejected the local government autonomy. They rejected sometimes independence when they were trying to amend the constitution.
On behalf of the governors.
Exactly. And then even I'm seeing here now, a reminder that section 192 of the 1999 constitution, which says, where the governor fails to transmit letter to enable his deputy work in acting capacity, the state assembly can pass a resolution of simple majority to empower the deputy governor after 21 days of governor's inability to so transmit power. Have we ever seen that already? It means they can actually do this, but we don't see that.
That might happen if the speaker is not interested in becoming governor.
Yeah, because the assembly, just like the local governments, have been disempowered by the governors. So we have
right.
to find a way to free the assemblies and free the local government.
Thank you, Laolu, for coming on. Let's